Egypt is an arid desert country located in northern Africa. It is divided into two parts, the Black Land and the Red Land. The Red Land is the barren desert that serves as protection from invaders. It also provides Egypt with many precious metals and semi-precious stones. The Black Land is the fertile area of land that surrounds the Nile. The Nile flows upstream to break apart into numerous tributaries, formerly known as the Nile Delta, which eventually feeds into the Mediterranean Sea. Literacy was a very complex field back in ancient Egypt. It took somewhere from 5 to 8 years to learn hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics were a series of pictures and symbols that represent a language. Hieroglyphics were made of 2,000 characters. Each hieroglyphic could represent a sound of the object or an idea or belief associated with the object. Only the children of scribes were able to go to school to learn hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics used to be undecipherable until 1822 AD, when it was discovered by C.E. Champollion, a French archaeologist. It was actually a propaganda poster by Alexander the Great after he conquered Egypt. It was written in 3 languages, hieroglyphics, Demotic, and Greek. The ancient Egyptians also created geometry and a number system. They had very skilled engineers and architects which planned out numerous different pyramids. They wrote on papyrus, which was paper-like sheets made from reeds on the Nile. Ancient Egypt was a theocracy, a government based on religion. The pharaoh was the divine representative of the gods and was treated very much like a god. The pharaoh was in charge of the religion, government, the army, and the well-being of the kingdom. Back then, temples were built to worship the gods. The temple of Edfu, for example, was built to worship Horus, the god of the sky. It still stands today, 60 kilometers north of Aswan, an Egyptian city. Egyptians were polytheistic, meaning they worshipped many gods. In all, they worshipped over 2,000 gods and goddesses. Their version of the Bible was called the Book of the Dead. It listed 42 negative confessions. It was believed that when one died, they had to recite all 42 confessions in order for their heart to be weighed. If they did, and their heart was lighter than a feather, meaning they had committed no sin, they were able to continue. If not, Anubis, the one who weighs the heart, would eat the heart. The ancient Egyptians had 5 main rankings of social classes that were similar to many other social ranking systems in other river valley civilizations. It began with the royal family at the top, then the upper class such as government workers and priests. After that came the scribes. After that, the merchants, farmers, and artisans are ranked, and then the slaves finally at the bottom. The ancient Egyptians developed a calendar almost identical to the one we use today. It has 365 days, which are divided into 12 months, 52 weeks, and 7 days per week. To keep time, they use sundials, which are tuned based on latitude. They also used bowl clocks, which were essentially bowls filled with water. They had specially designed holes to only allow 1 drop of water each second. The Egyptians used the amount of water still in the bowl to determine the time. The Egyptians were also known for their skilled surgeons and doctors. They developed many different medicines that are still used to this day. They also developed an elaborate mummification process, which included 2 main parts, embalming and wrapping. Mummification was a process geared towards preserving a body for use in the afterlife. The first step of mummification is embalming. All organs are removed except for the heart. Next, the body is covered in salt to eliminate all the moisture. It was left for about 40 days to dry. Perfumed oils and plant resins were then poured over the body, and the body was rubbed. After that, another thick, syrupy layer of resin was poured on the body to act as a glue for the strips of linen that are then applied afterwards. The mummy was placed on a wooden board, and yet another layer of linen was wrapped around the body. Long linen strips further secured the wrappings. It was then placed in a sarcophagus to lay until the afterlife. Egypt was arguably the most dynamic and thriving civilization due to its geography, culture, traditions, and influence on modern-day society. It was a highly advanced, ever-evolving civilization, and historians are still trying to find out more about this awesome civilization. Its name? Egypt.